What's up, pretty gang? It's your favorite nail tech Peaches, back with another video, and today is all about cuticle work. We're getting close up, dealing with the cuticle area. This is actually the final result. I did have to paint them black because I did not have any black acrylic, and you guys, I made such a mess. My nails were tracking polish everywhere, so that's why there's still like a little bit of polish residue here and there, but don't worry, it won't last forever. So first thing is first, I want to make sure you guys click the description link, make sure you see all my coupon codes, my Amazon storefront, follow me on social media, subscribe, and turn those notifications on. You don't want to miss out any videos. I got some stuff coming for you. So this is the color we're using. Of course, it's not polished, of course, and I did want to show you guys. Now this is what this looks like, right? And I'm showing you basically what is the area we're focusing on where I put all my cuticle beads. Okay, so the first bead that I lay is always going to cover up the majority of the nail where the natural nail and the tip meet. Now the cuticle area, right, the apex goes in this back third of the nail, and what we're doing here is we are putting the strength into the nail, okay, which is why I've already laid down that first bead and I'm starting here. Okay, so as you can see, the apex does not have to be highly elevated, but you do need to make sure that for each client, based on the size of their nail beds and the shape of the enhancement as well as the length of the enhancement, you want to make sure that you have a high enough apex that it provides the support, and you want to make sure the cuticles are flush. So you can see that I did zoom in so you guys can get a really clear picture of exactly what's going on, and from the side you can see where it is elevated. Okay, you want to make sure that there is a flushness to the cuticle area and it slightly elevates into that apex, and then it kind of I don't want to say de-escalates, but there's an incline and then there's a slight decline towards the tip. I personally like a nail that once you hit the apex, it's kind of levels out, and it pretty much it's not like super duper thin at the tip. Basically, I don't like seeing like a heavy slope downwards, but everybody's work is different. So you can see from the side, this is what my work looks like. Now this shape is also coffin shape. For this client, this is pretty much as tapered that we get with the coffin. This is the best coffin for her, which is why I say there's no such thing as a tapered square, because obviously this doesn't look like a square, but when I do the final shaping, there is going to be more of a taper. Technically, like structurally speaking, coffin is not the best shape for her, because if you ever notice on the sides of some people's nails, if you taper, right, her nails are on the larger side, but they also have a slim shape. And what happens is if you taper it too much, the tip is going to pretty much get filed too much, and you're going to have way too much natural nail exposed, and that compromises the integrity of the enhancement. So this is why I always say that some people, there are certain shapes better suited for them simply for that fact alone, because it does compromise the integrity of the nail. Okay, so this is the shape that works, or that she wants, and this is how I make it work. So as you can see, we want to make sure the cuticle area is nice and flush. I don't take a lot of acrylic, but I take just enough that it's going to set up, right, which means it's polymerizing, and then I'll be able to move it around, and then I'm able to use my brush to go ahead and work the product and maneuver around. Okay, I do want you guys to know that the shape of my brush and the fact that it's pinched absolutely helps with this. Imagine if I had an oval brush trying to get into all these areas. You see how there's like an incline and then it levels out, right? Trying to get into all those areas would be very hard if my brush was oval or pointed. So take a look at how much acrylic that I'm using. Even though the area is very small, we have to keep in mind that we're not just trying to fill in that area just a little bit, because this is not a fill, right? We need to have enough product to give us that structure and that strength. So you can see, right, I'm pushing the product, I'm letting it set, and as I push the product, I take my brush and I tuck it around the edges. Now you can see if there was product that was flooding the cuticles, as they say. I've had people comment on my videos and say, wow, her cuticles are flooded. No, they are not. And you can check on my page and look at any of the sets that have grown out and come back for fills, that this is not flooding the cuticle. This is what you want to see when you are getting nice and tight up against the cuticle area, or technically this is going to be the eponychium, the skin around the cuticle area, is what we call it. But you want to make sure that it's nice and tight up into there. And notice how my beads are not extremely liquidy. They are just the right type of I don't want to say texture, but they're just the right type of combination of acrylic powder and liquid that it kind of slides into that gap, and I'm able to control where it can go. Now notice how consistent that my application is and my apex is. If I notice any inconsistencies, it's okay to go ahead in and do this, because another part of the cuticle area and the apex that people don't talk about is going to be the shape of the apex itself. That's something we're going to focus on in just a second when we get to the filing portion. But yes, that is something that definitely plays a part. So as you can see, I saved this one so that way I can pretty much show you from scratch. I take my first bead and I have it with some structure there, enough product so that way I'm not just putting 1,000 beads, but you can see I put it where the nail tip and then the nail tip and the natural nail meet. And then I kind of just go ahead and I guide the product down. I blend it upwards so that I'm always left with this amount of area in the cuticle area. Okay, you want this amount of space because it's not so far down that you're gonna have to have an overload of product to try and match it down where the nail tip is, but it's not too small of a space that your apex is gonna end up just like a hump coming out of the cuticle area. Okay, so you want to go ahead, you know, keep the sides and everything, and then look from the side. You can see we don't want anything lumpy or bumpy, right? We're going to put that bead in there, and you can see it's setting up because now I'm able to move it and it's not going out of control. So notice how I'm kind of doing like a pat pat and tap tap motion. That's because your beads are going to swell no matter what. So because they are going to polymerize, which basically, if you didn't know, acrylic is heat activated. So as it heats up and does that chemical reaction, it's kind of gonna swell a little bit, and that's why you don't want to put it too close to the cuticle area. But notice when I put it a little bit further back and gently nudge it and push it, it's gonna go ahead and fill that space anyways. And you can see from the angles that I'm showing you, this is a nicely structured nail. Now I don't do straight tips, so obviously that's gonna look a little bit different, but do know that you should not be relying on the thickness of the tip for strength. And I'm hearing and noticing that a lot of times with the straight tips, people are relying on the tip itself for strength. So here you can see I'm showing you where we're focusing on. Notice where my e-file is hitting. We're really just focusing on the cuticle area. Me personally, I do the rest of the surface filing with my actual hand file. But notice how I am going ahead and rotating around. So the way you want to keep this is you don't want it to be like straight up and down, but notice my e-file is actually at like a 45-degree angle, and I take control of the client's fingers and bend them how I need them to get into all those areas. Now when you go ahead and do this process, this is called sealing the cuticles. If you do not do this correctly, you're more than likely going to go ahead and end up with pockets that can retain moisture. You can go ahead and have issues with chipping off the product if you file too long, you know, or too hard, which you want to avoid. And this is the step in which you will see people getting rings of fire, which is basically when people take off their nails, even with the soak off, and you see a bunch of different rings and like, what is that called? Not nudges, whatever, different rings and such. It's because they're doing this way too fast and way too hard. You can see that because my application was so smooth and I was able to get so closely up against the eponychium in the cuticle area that it's pretty much sealed itself. That's the main step of having a cuticle area that's pretty much sealed very well, and this is going to go ahead and complete that. So I hope you guys can see that on each of these nails, look at where I'm filing at. They all have the same type of pattern. I'm going in a rounded motion and I'm sticking up against that area, right against where their skin is at, but not touching on the skin. And I'm just repeating that. And a lot of people ask me, how do you know when it's done? That takes trial, error, and practice. You'll know when it's enough when your client's retention starts to go up, and you'll notice that your whole process starts to streamline and it takes way less time to do things. You know what I'm saying? So again, 45-degree angle, because if we did it completely parallel, we would be up against the apex and we would not be able to reach the cuticle area. So this is why I move the nail around to different angles, so that I'm always keeping my e-file at a slightly like 45-degree angle basically, so that way I'm not digging into them. So you can see from this angle how I'm up against the cuticle area, but I'm also shaping the apex. I'm rounding it out so that there is a small incline up to the apex area instead of it just straight up starting a hump right from that eponychium in that cuticle area. Okay, so hopefully this video helped you guys. I get a lot of compliments and questions about the way my cuticle area looks and things like that. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Of course, I hope that you guys subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and once again, I really hope that this works for you guys. As you can see, or do you want to say something? Just say it now.
And she's the greatest nail tech in the universe.
There you go. Thank you. And of course, as always, I will see you guys in the next video.
Nail doctor.